Gun control, the nerd argument. One of the most interesting features of science fiction is that regardless of what the actual basis is, there's always a gunfight, even if it's with laser rifles. There's something about a firefight, something to think about. Another thing is that virtually every science fiction franchise has a futuristic, advanced, morally and culturally sophisticated human race. One of the best examples of this is Star Trek. In Star Trek, you have human beings that try to use logic all of the time. They are rational individuals, and yet scientific exploration vessels like the Enterprise has phaser banks and torpedo tubes. Why would such an advanced culture need such lethal weapons? Oh, that's right, there could be an alien threat. Well, even if that's the case, why do civilians carry phasers? A phaser is an extremely lethal weapon that can literally vaporize cubic meters of rock in seconds. Yet people carry them around like nothing, and actually use them daily as tools because, just like real guns, there are other purposes besides killing people. Now, we'll get back to Star Trek in a minute. Let's talk about Star Wars. Star Wars, that's right, war's even in the name. Look at Tatooine. There are plenty of criminals and few law enforcement officials in place. They have blasters and thermal detonators. Hell, you cannot even get grenades in our world. Imagine if we had thermal detonators. Even though the criminals have exponentially more lethal weapons than us, life still exists on Tatooine. How is that possible? It's simple. The criminals and the good law-abiding citizens both have the same level of firepower. So everyone's afraid of stepping on each other's toes. The force is balanced. Let's go back to Star Trek now. In Star Trek, there are literally dozens of ships and ship classes that are named after important events or people in America's Revolutionary War. Why is that? Why is there a Constitution class, or even a Sovereign class? Something to think about. Can you imagine gun control on Star Trek? Can you imagine trying to take the phaser out of Captain Kirk or Captain Picard's hand? It ain't happening. So why does this advanced society have phasers even though they do not kill? It is simple. Even though they do not kill, they understand that morality and lethal force sometimes must be used as a deterrent against crime. Truly advanced cultures have more lethal weapons and are mature enough to handle them. How come no one in the 1700s thought that weapons were too modern or lethal, but now they are? Have we experienced a social decay? How can we be advancing as a culture if we are making the weapons in the hands of citizens more archaic? You never hear people saying that we need to ban calculators because we would be in a more advanced society doing math in our heads. If we cannot trust people with small arms, how could we ever trust governments with thermonuclear weapons? It doesn't make sense. Governments are not reason. They are force. They are humans elected by other human beings. They are not gods, even though they sometimes have the power of gods. Look at Battlestar Galactica. In that world, if you're human and you have a gun, you use it to save the human race. Now, what would happen if there was an Independence Day scenario? If aliens invaded us, how would you defend yourself? Some might argue that if aliens could get here, they would be so advanced that we would not put up much of a fight. That may not be the case. Just because they could warp through space does not mean they have strong weapons or bodies. Perhaps they could not get strong weapons along the journey, or maybe they were just thrown in from another dimension. In any event, how do you like your odds? Would you rather go out quietly into the night or die like a man fighting for your right to live? What makes you think that advanced aliens would actually reveal themselves to fight with us? Why not just manipulate, control the minds, or even create our leaders to kill more of us? An armed human race would put up more of a fight than an unarmed race dependent on other human beings and a perhaps remote-controlled government. Let me tell you what I know. Even single-celled organisms have defense mechanisms. An armed society is a polite society. When government fears its people, there is freedom. When people fear government, there is tyranny. When people have a way of defending their lives, they tend not to be attacked. The nerd argument against gun control is unique, and that it includes the concept that an increasingly moral society must be backed by an increase in firepower, and that humans must be able to defend their own lives without the help of government or other human beings due to an unforeseen alien threat. Take care.